Alright, so I have a Rift Wizard build here that I want to show because it was an insane early game. So the first thing I got in the run, on the first portal I found the Codex of Sacrifice, and I've never used it before, so I thought, okay, let's see if it kills me. And it dropped me to 1 HP and continued to work. So my max HP was 1 for about 5 or 6 levels, as I earned all of the word spells for free. At which point it ceases to function. So I was able to get my max HP up again over several levels after I had gained all of the free word spells from the Codex. Along the way, I decided to go heavily into Ice because the Word of Ice spell is one of the only ways to apply Frozen to all units on the map. This build is one of the only builds I've ever played that requires no line of sight whatsoever. It basically uses the combo of Word of Ice, creating Word of Wind. The items I have make it hit 4 targets instead. The Word of Wind will be cast on 4 targets, dealing 50 ice damage and freezing freezing for 8 turns. I've upgraded it with Arcane Storm, so when it kills something, it will cast Blaze Rift as well. Blaze Rift's been upgraded with User Poison, so the enemies lose Arcane Resist and are poisoned. And to finish it all off, I have added Death Cleave to the combo. I don't need Lightning Cleave, and I don't need Cleaving Whirlwind, and I don't need Marked for Death. I could get Marked for Death if I have spare SP, but the base effect is already strong enough. I have a bunch of ice items, all of which are giving me some pretty powerful effects. I have a single Blizzard Beast pet, a pair of icy orbs that I managed to duplicate, and an ever-melting cube, which I picked up recently, which means that once any enemy on the map becomes unfrozen by my Word of Ice spell or by any kind of other damage, they will lose ice resistance as well for 3 turns. I'm pairing that with specifically Frozen Fragility, which started to increase my Chill Wind damage. It multiplies it by quite a bit, especially when they're soaked. They can have minus 150% ice resistance because of this. I don't recommend Shatter Shards. I picked it up late. It turns out that it's actually pretty bad with the combo. Death Cleave is better when the only effect that's killing enemies is the primary spell target. So Shatter Shards as a secondary damage source is actually interrupting the combo slightly. Obviously I have Ice Lord. I picked up Arch Sorcerer as a level reward, which is just nice to have. Crystal Power is pretty absurd. It amplifies my ice damage by an insane amount after I use Word of Ice. Glittering Dance was a free effect, which will actually give me quite a few fairy summons, because the 3 arcane spell casts in a row will be Chill Wind. Ice Tap is what made the entire build come together. This is what made me go for Chill Wind. The spell, which is Chill Wind, because it has the arcane tag now, is going to be copied at each other frozen target in line of sight. Now, for a few levels, it basically one-shot everything on the map. picking up Shatter Shards has actually interrupted the combo at times. So, it's not actually doing as much damage as it used to. And then obviously the first enchantment I picked up for the game was Word Speaker, so that I could, in the early levels, use my word spells to beat the levels while I was at 1 maximum HP, which was pretty insane. It took lots of planning and lots of very careful movement to survive the early game with 1 maximum HP, but I pulled it off, and the late game is fantastic because of it. One of the other big parts of this build is Word of Undeath. Having the HP of all non-undead units means that as long as there are no undead units on the map, I can half the HP of those units over and over and over again, to make things like Jormungandr completely worthless. So this is the semi-final boss before the wizard boss, or it is one of the final bosses. And with Word of Undeath in play, I can practically ignore him. The only enemies I really have to worry about for this room is the giant flaming skulls, and they have low enough max HP that I'll be able to finish them off with Word of Beauty before using my my Word of Ice Chillwind combo. So the first thing I do in every level is I use Word of Chaos to stun everything on the map. It teleports everything randomly around the map, and I get 5 free turns to do whatever I want. I then immediately cast Holy Armor with the Crystal Armor upgrade, so that I have resistance to all types of damage, and I also have 150% ice resist, which means any damage that I do with any collateral damage that I do with Chillwind will heal me. So, that was my first cast was to stun everything. Second was to pop Holy Armor just to stay safe. Next, I'm going to be casting Word of Beauty. Word of Beauty to kill the undead units very quickly. It seems they've already taken some damage. I'm not sure why. But I'm going to finish them off with Word of Beauty. If I can. One more cast. Alright, now there are no more undead units on the map. Oh, I guess there are vampire counts. Never mind. So my game plan changes. Now I'm just going to use my combo. I thought I would have been able to do the half and half effect with Word of Undeath, but the vampire counts are just a little too survivable. So I'm going to cast Word of Chaos. I'm going to cast Death Cleave. And now I can start doing the combo, which is just Word of Ice over and over and over again. Alright, as you can see, that one-shot literally everything on the map except for the immortal goblins and Jormungandr, who can only take so much damage a turn before his resistance max out. So, the next thing I do is I cast Word of Chaos again, which is, I think, the most powerful word out of all of them. 6-turn stun to everything on the map, with no possibility of resistance, is probably one of the strongest effects of the game. I'm not sure why Jormungandr wasn't stunned just now. He's frozen, however. Everything else is stunned, though. From here, I will... Holy Armor still has 3 turns. Still have 1 turn of Death Cleave. I want to cast Word of Undeath several times to make Jormungandr completely useless. Okay, from here he just has 150 HP left, Word of Undeath doing all the work for me, and I can Word of Ice. I'll be safe here. If I really want to be super safe, I will Word of Chaos one more time. Stun effect. Seems like he is immune to stun. I don't know why. It might be the Chaos modifier. It might be the fact that he's a final boss. So yes. So Holy Armor. And he's dead. Might as well Death Cleave. Finish it off with Word of Ice combo. As you can see, the free enchantment I picked up along the way, Glittering Dance, because I'm casting several arcane spells in a row, I get a free stack of fairies which will heal me to full. And that's about it for the second and final room. But I was never able to really do this without, you know, the word spells have really opened up an entire series of powerful effects that all work really well together. The only weakness of the word spells I've noticed in general is undead. Word of Beauty can do damage, lightning damage to undead, but everything else does not affect undead that well. Except for Word of Ice, but most undead are usually resistant to ice. So, but yes, the Chill Wind effect was one of the best combos I've ever encountered. When I was reading it, I was like, wait, you know, Word of Ice, casting Chill Wind 4 times, and then the absolutely incredible Ice Tap, which lets me recast Chill Wind over and over and over, and I can multiply that with Death Cleave as well. So final level, I have an SP to spend, which I'll probably spend on a skill. I don't need to upgrade Cleave. Word of Undeath is fun for Hatred of Life. Hatred of Life is a very powerful effect. I think I'll put a single point into Collective Madness just for... oh yeah, I forgot to tell you about Word of Madness. This was much more effective in the early game, but being able to berserk every unit on the map for 5 turns is also an easy way to deal with even stuff like the undead. Most of these word spells don't fit into the build well enough for upgrades. Shield Strip would be nice if I had shielded undead I needed to deal with, but it's not really that big a deal. Echoing effects are also quite strong, especially for something like Word of Chaos that I use a lot, but I've noticed, I mean, by this point I have several mana pots, so the echo effect is less effective when I have, you know, enough casts of this spell. So really, I think at this point, I'm going to learn a new skill, just for more passive effects. Frostbite I don't really need, because I'm unfreezing enemies with damage. I might pick up Radiant Chill just for the refreeze, especially because I'm going to be casting the spells over and over and over again. There's a good chance that Radiant Chill will, by the end of the effects, refreeze the enemies, which would be very effective. So that's probably what I'm going to pick up at this point. Pure Strike is probably one of the strongest spells that I could have picked up. One of the strongest arcane effects I could have picked up, assuming that I found a way to shield myself, but I have not found a way to shield myself easily without using more skills. This would be strong enough. This would, I believe, increase my number of targets of Word of Ice to 6. So I think I'm going to pick this up. For example, I could pick Arcane Shield. If I had more SP by the end of the game, I could have gone with Arcane Shield and then grabbed Pure Strike, and that would have been quite a bit more damage. The other option, which would be completely overkill, is multicast. It would work well with Death Cleave. If I had one more SP and going into the next level, I could pick up multicast and make the combo even more busted. I don't think I'll be able to pull it off. Well, there are actually 2 orbs here. I'm gonna try it just for laughs. Yeah, I could use the skill, increasing the number of targets of Word of Ice to 6, I believe. But I think I'm going to try multicast just to completely break the build. So I'm going to start on this square. I'm going to start with Word of Chaos, as always, for the 6-turn stun to everything, including the wizard. So now, the final boss is now stunned for 5 turns. I have Fleet Boots, which give me double move speed. So in 2 turns, I'm going to go over here, grab the orb, grab multicast. So, I have 3 turns left before Mordred wakes up. So, pretty easy. I'm just gonna go fully armor, Death Cleave, multicast. He's now Clarity for a turn. My multicast and cleave are still up for 2 turns, so I will just go straight into Word of Ice. So Mordred was Clarity'd, so he wasn't frozen. But I can do another Word of Ice, and then I'll get rid of his first incarnation. It did not, because there weren't enough targets left on the map for him to kill. So it's just me and him left. So his next ability will probably be a swap with me, which is totally fine. He's going to swap straight into my Fairy Swarm. you have holy armor? Okay, so he swapped me. He has 700 HP and 7 shields. I'm gonna word of undeath him. Do that twice. Fights like these that I wish that I had used a word spell. Used some kind of shield stripping effect. Such as Word of Beauty. It's interesting, he doesn't have any tags himself, so he's a wizard just like me. Cleave. Word of Ice. As long as there are enemies left on the map, you can kill them. So Mordred is back, but my Death Cleave is up, so Word of Ice is just going to do some serious damage because he's standing next to the Shamblers. Still have one turn of Holy Armor and Death Cleave, so Word of Ice. Gotta make sure Holy Armor is up at all times. Gives me massive resists and 150% ice resists. Pop a mana potion. He's a little far, so I'll Word of Chaos. Now he's stunned for 5 turns, so I can quickly multi-class, Death Cleave, and continue Word of Icing. HP remaining. Finish him off with the Pillwind. So this was one of the most fun runs I've ever had, and I was also very proud of making it through the early game. I'm sad that I didn't record my 6 levels spent at 1 HP, but it is one one of the best runs I've ever had. There was one level in particular where I had to use ice balls to peek around corners just to kill some infinite range eye constructs. So I was also looking for easy ways to apply shield early, and that would have required me to go into Holy. And it would require at least 5 points. So it was either Holy or just play well. And I found the Chillwind Arcane recast combo to be quite powerful. You can see Shadow Shards did do damage here, but these numbers are skewed incorrectly. Chillwind can easily do over 10,000 damage if I didn't pick Shadow Shards, as it would have been recast more often from my passive, my Crystal Power passive. Blaze Rip is a fantastic addition, and yeah, it was actually surprising you saw the end build, and you saw that Shadow Shards did work, but it is sad that you didn't get to see the absurdity that was Crystal Power being multiplied over and over. So. As you can see, my HP was low for several levels before I built myself back up. So, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good day.